Welcome to howtorunahomedaycare.com. Today we're doing an interview with my good friend Sandra. Sandra has her own childcare. She has an ECE background, which is an early childhood education background. So she's worked in daycare centers for how many years?
Over 10.
Over 10 years working in daycare centers. She's also a parent, and she's had her own child in three different home childcare situations, and now she's opening up her own home childcare. So Sandra is unique in that she has a ton of experience in all three different realms. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you today. Thanks for giving us your time, Sandra.
No problem.
Okay, so the first question I wanted to ask you was, why did you decide to open your own home childcare?
The main reason was so that I could stay home with my daughter. I wasn't able to do it right when she was younger and I was ready to go back to work, but we're in a position now where we can, so that was my biggest desire. My biggest wish was to stay home with her, and she's starting school, but I'll be there before and after school and PD days and March breaks and like summer vacations and everything, so that is why my main reason for staying home.
I think that's common too. I think a lot of our people who are watching have the same thing. They want to stay home with their own kids. They're not sure how to do it.
Yeah, and it's been very hard for me to go and look after other people's children because I am working in a childcare center, and then have mine look after somebody else. So that was always a struggle, and so now I'm in a position that I can do that, stay home, and I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. And what was your biggest challenge when you were in the deciding phase? Like, you wanted to do it, but because a lot of people at home, they want to, it sounds good, but they don't know if they have enough space. They don't know if they can do it. Like, you have a huge background in early childhood, so maybe that wasn't the biggest challenge for you. But maybe you could share your biggest challenge, and it might help someone else who's listening.
Sure. Well, some of those things went through my head, like, is my house going to be big enough? We're in a townhouse, so you always wonder, like, are you going to have enough space? That was a challenge to figure that out, as well as actually deciding to do it with my husband, because the space that is now the childcare was the man cave. So he had to give up his space in order for me to do this. So that was a challenge. That was a lot of discussions on whether or not that we could do that. He could give that up, as well as financially. Like, I was making good money, so can I make something at least similar, comparable, so that I can still stay home and we're not dealing with a change in salaries.
Yes, absolutely. So that's two things for everyone to keep in mind, that this isn't just a decision for the caregiver, it's a decision for the whole family, because you're opening up your home. Yes, and absolutely the financial situation as well. And a good point is that you won't be paying for childcare.
Exactly.
For your own child.
So I may not be making exactly, like, my yearly income will not be the same as what it was when I was working full time, but now that I'm not spending all that money on childcare for my own children, then it evens out.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And what surprised you the most about when you were getting ready to open your daycare? What was the biggest, maybe an obstacle or maybe a positive surprise?
Getting things set up. Once I had them set up and had people come in and they liked the space and they made comments like, this is the best space that we've seen so far, that sort of was like, okay, because I haven't been in a lot of other people's home daycare, so not knowing what I was being compared to, that was a pleasant surprise. That and my website, seeing people explaining to me that they loved my website. It was very informative. It answered a lot of their questions right away, so they knew whether or not they actually wanted to pursue getting in touch with me. Hearing that kind of feedback was a surprise, but like a nice surprise.
Nice surprise.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So all the time and effort that you took into renovating your space was worth it.
Yes.
And how long did it take? Just to give everyone an idea.
It was a couple-month process between getting rid of the stuff that was down in our basement and then rearranging it and buying the furniture and putting it together, and it was I probably could have done it much quicker, but we weren't in a rush, so we took our time. But we have a bar, we're still trying to sell, so getting rid of stuff that was a big thing. But like toys and that, I had lots already just from my experiences and having my own child, so that wasn't too bad, but getting like the furniture to like the shelving units and the changing table and buying stuff to put up on the walls, or whether or not we were going to paint and repaint.
So what felt really overwhelming, Sandra, when you were deciding or when you were preparing to open up your home daycare? What aspect of running your own business what was a challenge for you? Was it menu planning? Was it figuring out how much to charge? Was it finding the space in your house?
I would say for me, the most overwhelming part of it was the registering. I wanted to register it as a business, so the registering, the paperwork, the I don't know, just like the tax, figuring out the tax situation. That part was the most overwhelming, the part that made me the most uncomfortable, than anything else. That like menu planning was fine, and figuring out a fee. It's pretty easy to figure that out when you look at what people are charging around you and your own, and evaluating your own experience. But registering it as a business and figuring out the paperwork and dealing with all the taxes and stuff, that was my biggest challenge.
Where did you go for your answers? Like how?
Service Canada.
Okay.
That had a lot of the answers.
And did you use like a website, or you actually went in person?
I just went on the website. It was really easy to do the stuff on the website, but lots of reading.
Okay. Yeah. So if you live in Canada, you can go to Service Canada.
ServiceCanada.ca.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you live in the United States, then you need to look into the laws and states in your own state, because I know they're all different. Thank you so much. And you mentioned before you have a website. So you advertised on your website. Was there any other ways that you advertised?
Used Ottawa and Kijiji have actually been the best way for me to get my information out to people. I've posted stuff on mailboxes in the neighborhood. That also got me a couple of phone calls. There's Facebook groups. I have only did a little bit, only because I was still working at the time. But now that I have one space left, I'm sure that I'll be going on there, and that tends to get some interest too.
Okay. And as we wrap up, your biggest success that you discovered during this whole process of deciding and setting up your childcare, and then you open in 2 weeks. What was the biggest success that you didn't think it was going to happen, but it did?
I can't remember. The biggest thing so far, I guess, is just that people were pleased with the space, that they like this, that they're comfortable, that I filled the spaces, and not, it hasn't taken me too much time to fill almost all of the spaces, and the positive feedback, I guess, that I've gotten from people.
I think that's key, because most people are worried that I'm not going to be able to fill my spots.
Yeah.
I'm not going to find the clients.
Yeah.
But then you do.
Yeah.
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 Well, thanks so much for taking your time with us, Sandra.
No problem.
And thanks for visiting howtorunahomedaycare.com.